Falling dreams. One step lands, the next one doesn't, and suddenly you're dropping, fast enough to feel your stomach lag behind, like you're on a roller coaster. Right before impact, your body snaps awake so violently it feels less like waking up and more being tossed out of bed. Falling dreams tend to show up when something in life feels slightly off balance, just enough uncertainty to make things feel unstable. Maybe plans aren't sticking, or outcomes feel out of your hands. That lack of control gets translated into something physical. Instead of thinking, things feel shaky, your brain turns it into, there is literally no ground to stand on. It's a crude but effective conversion, like turning emotional static into full-on free fall. There's also a physical trigger. Around 70% of people experience a hypnic jerk, a sudden muscle twitch as the body falls asleep. The brain catches that jolt and builds a falling story around it in real time. Add the fact that about 75% of people have had falling dreams, and it explains why this shows up everywhere, from cartoons to Christopher Nolan movies like Inception. Some scientists even think it traces back to when slipping out of a tree was a serious survival issue. So if you're free falling tonight, it's probably not your life collapsing. It's your brain reacting like you missed one step and escalating it into a full emergency broadcast. Teeth falling out. You're mid-conversation when your tongue hits a loose tooth, then another. Within seconds, you're holding a small pile of your own teeth, trying to stay calm while your brain quietly spirals. This dream often connects to moments where you feel exposed or uncertain in how you present yourself. Maybe a conversation didn't land right, or you're overthinking how you came across. Teeth are tied to speaking, smiling, confidence, so when that feels unstable, the mind doesn't keep it subtle. It turns it into something physical, visible, and impossible to ignore. It's not really about teeth. It's about that uncomfortable awareness of being seen. There's also a very literal trigger. This dream shows up more in people who grind their teeth at night, a condition called bruxism, where the jaw clenches during sleep. That pressure sends signals upward, and the brain builds a scene dramatic enough to match the sensation. Scientists still debate how much is psychological versus physical, but the overlap is strong. Stress can increase grinding, which means both the physical act of grinding and psychological weight of uncertainty can collide in one very specific nightmare. Losing one tooth would have made the point, but your brain didn't think that was enough. Better to lose all of them so you get it. Being chased. You're running, but your legs feel heavy, and whatever's behind you isn't slowing down. Right when it's about to catch you, you wake up, heart pounding like you just finished the 100-meter sprint at the Olympics. Chase dreams tend to appear when there's something in life you're avoiding rather than confronting. It could be stress, a difficult conversation, a responsibility that keeps getting pushed back. Instead of dealing with it directly, the mind turns that pressure into a literal pursuit. The threat doesn't always have a face, because the issue itself might not be fully defined yet. It's that constant feeling of something unfinished following you around. There's also a built-in survival layer. During REM sleep, the brain can activate a fight or flight response, the same system used in real danger. Some scientists call this threat simulation theory, the idea that dreams rehearse risky situations so we're better prepared. That heavy, slow-running feeling often comes from REM paralysis, where your body is temporarily unable to move, and the brain awkwardly works it into the dream. Over 80% of people report chase dreams, making it one of the most common themes, especially in childhood when vulnerability is higher. So if you're being chased tonight, it's probably not a monster. It's something you've been postponing, now showing up with cardio. Being naked in public. You walk into a meeting room, ready to give the presentation you've been practicing all month, and then it hits you. You're not wearing pants. You didn't think public speaking could get any worse until this moment. This dream tends to surface during moments where you feel exposed in real life, new environments, unfamiliar expectations, situations where you're being evaluated. It's about that sharp awareness of being seen without a filter, and the lack of clothing is an expression of that stress. When there's little control over how you might come across, the mind takes that fear of messing up and removes every layer of protection. What's left is raw visibility and the kind of attention you didn't ask for but can't escape. This dream shows up slightly more often in men in some studies. The brain builds it using the same social wiring that tracks status and judgment during the day. In older interpretations, nudity could symbolize honesty or openness, but modern versions lean heavily toward embarrassment. It's the brain rehearsing what total social failure might feel like, just to be safe. You prepared for every question and scenario, except the one where your pants were left at home. Failing an exam or test. You sit down, flip open the test booklet, and immediately realize two things. You don't understand a single question. Also, you don't remember ever taking this class. Everyone else has their head down and writing like their life depends on it, and you're stuck trying to figure out what subject this even is. Dreams like this tend to show up when pressure builds around performance, deadlines, expectations, situations where you're supposed to know what you're doing. It's not really about school, but about the fear of being unprepared when it matters. The brain reaches for exams because that's one of the first places we learned what evaluation feels like. That setting becomes a reusable stage for any situation where you feel tested, even years later. About half of people report these dreams, including people who haven't been in school for decades. Researchers group them under achievement anxiety dreams, which also include being late or missing something important. The brain reuses the same environment because it's efficient. One familiar classroom can represent every modern pressure at once: jobs, performances, responsibilities. Even if you're not in school anymore, your brain still found the fastest way to remind you of the feeling of being unprepared. It even chose the one place where that panic was graded. Losing control of a vehicle. You're cruising downhill when you realize the brake pedal has disappeared. Instead of slowing down, the car just keeps rolling forward with the confidence of a shopping cart on a hill. Dreams like this usually connect to moments where life feels like it's slipping just slightly out of your hands. It's the creeping sense that things are moving faster than you can manage. This can be from deadlines stacking, decisions piling up, or life direction getting fuzzy, and the car becomes a stand-in for control itself. When steering stops responding or speed ramps up, it mirrors that exact feeling. You're still in the driver's seat, but you're not actually in control. There's also a physical element to this dream. During REM sleep, your brain is active, but your body is temporarily paralyzed, so you don't physically act out the dream. When the dream tells your body to press the brake, nothing happens in real life. The brain notices that mismatch and builds a scenario that fits it. Instead of questioning the failure, the dream escalates it into a runaway car where control is completely gone. Turns out, as soon as control has slipped for a second, your dramatic brain will turn it into a full action movie with stunts and explosions. Dreaming of your own death. You're lying there, completely still, while everything keeps going around you. Conversations and movements happen all around, but none of it involves you, which is a very strange way to find out you've been written out of the situation entirely. Dreams like this often appear during periods of major transition. Big changes in identity, direction, or life structure can trigger them. Perhaps a job ends, a role shifts, or a version of yourself stops fitting. The brain reaches for the most absolute symbol it has to represent that kind of shift: the end of a life. Something important is changing, and the brain chooses a symbol that makes that impossible to ignore. There's also a strong connection to emotional strain. Experiences of being killed in a dream often appear alongside higher stress or anxiety. Some people even continue the dream after their dream death, observing the scene as if they've stepped outside of their bodies. Abraham Lincoln reportedly dreamed of his own funeral shortly before his assassination. It sounds like a prediction, but researchers point to his constant stress and awareness of danger as the more likely source. Sometimes things just shift in your life, but your brain turns it into a full ending sequence with no warning. Drowning or unable to breathe. You're underwater, trying to swim to the surface, but it keeps getting farther away. No matter how hard you try, there's just no air where you need it, and you just keep sinking deeper. Dreams like this often connect to feeling overwhelmed. It could be too much happening in your life at once, too much stress to process, and no clear way to get ahead of it. Water becomes the perfect setting because it behaves the same way pressure does. It surrounds you, weighs on you heavily, and makes even simple actions harder. When that pressure builds up in real life, the brain turns it into a situation where you physically can't get space to breathe. There's also a very real physical trigger behind this. During sleep, your breathing can become irregular, especially if you're congested, sleeping face down, or have sleep apnea, where breathing briefly stops. The brain picks up on that drop in airflow and builds a scenario that matches it. That's why some people dream of drowning, being trapped underwater, or stuck in a room with no air. In studies, people with untreated sleep apnea frequently reported drowning or suffocation dreams, and those dreams often disappeared once their breathing was stabilized. Even though your brain didn't invent the panic, it still built an entire underwater scene around one moment of missing air. Animal attack dreams. You're enjoying a calm hike through the woods when a bear rushes out of the bushes, or maybe you're brewing your morning coffee when a snake shows up out of nowhere and slithers towards you. Even in your dreams, you can't catch a break. Dreams like this often connect to instinct-level fear. Instead of the mundane, everyday stress, this kind of fear is immediate and hard to ignore. It can be a person, a situation, or a tension that hasn't been fully processed yet. The brain doesn't always label this unnamed fear neatly in your dreams, but this unsettled feeling turns into something your body instantly understands, a major threat. Animals work perfectly because you don't need context. You see it and you react. That instinct is exactly the point. There's a strong evolutionary layer behind it. Around 22% of people report dreaming about snakes. The brain areas tied to fear and survival become active during REM sleep, recreating scenarios that demand quick reactions, possibly to rehearse danger, so you're better prepared if you encounter those situations. In places where certain animals are common in real life, people tend to dream about them more often too. The new threat in your life didn't come with a label, but your overly creative brain added fangs and poison so you wouldn't miss the message. Being lost. You've driven home from work thousands of times, but somehow you just couldn't get back this time. The highway turns into a never-ending stretch, and every turn just loops back to the beginning. At some point, you realize you're lost and trapped in your own dream. Dreams like this usually connect to moments when direction in life feels unclear. You're making decisions without a clear signal that you're heading in the right direction, or you're moving forward but not sure it leads anywhere meaningful. That uncertainty doesn't stay abstract for long. It turns into a space where nothing lines up, where effort doesn't equal progress, and where every choice feels slightly off. The frustration in the dream mirrors that exact feeling, trying, adjusting, and still not getting anywhere. There's also a brain-level explanation behind the confusion. The hippocampus, which helps you navigate and build mental maps, stays active during sleep while sorting memories. When that system pulls from mismatched or incomplete pieces, familiar places can come back distorted. That's why dreams often remix real locations, the school you went to, the neighborhood you grew up in, but rearrange them into something that feels believable for a second and wrong immediately after. You're still moving, which feels productive, right up until you realize you've been driving in a very creative circle. Infidelity dreams. You wake up annoyed at your partner, and then realize nothing actually happened. It's just your brain running a full relationship scandal overnight and expecting you to deal with the emotional aftermath like it was real. Dreams like this usually connect to insecurity, trust, or fear of loss. That doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong in the relationship, but it could mean that something feels uncertain. Maybe it's a subconscious doubt of your partner's commitment, or even guilt that you haven't been a good spouse. The mind takes that small tension and builds a situation where the stakes are undeniable. In reality, your brain isn't trying to expose a secret. It's just amplifying a feeling you haven't fully sorted out yet. There's also a measurable carryover effect. Studies show people who dream about their partner cheating often feel less close to them the next day and may even act more suspicious or distant. Around 60% of people report having had this kind of dream at least once. Researchers link it to attachment styles. People who tend to worry more about relationships report more jealousy dreams, while others are more likely to dream about being the one who cheats. Turns out, when the brain processes emotional signals during sleep, sometimes it runs too far with them and leaves you holding the jealousy bag. If you like this video and want to learn more about the human body, check out these other videos.